Good afternoon and welcome to another training session with Dave Collins. I'm working here with Single Point IT to present some training today in regards to how you can use Flubaroo in Google Drive to be able to send feedback to students on multiple choice quizzes. As always, I encourage you to let me know if you're here. So there's a chat window that you can open up. It's got a blue icon. If you go into your Google Hangout, go up onto the left-hand corner and inside there you'll be able to type in, "Hi, Dave Collins here," and give us a bit of details about your background. I am the Director of Learning Innovation at Flubaroo School. And yeah, so this afternoon we're going to be looking at how we can use Flubaroo to be able to give feedback on a multiple choice quiz. It sort of does require that we understand what a quiz can be, how we can set what quiz up on the internet, first of all, using Google Drive. And so I'm going to go through some of those basics first. Apologies to those of you who already understand how to use forms pretty well. I want to make sure that everyone today can use it. I think forms are one of the most powerful aspects of Google Drive itself. It enables you to collect information and feedback from students very quickly and then to be able to do all sorts of stuff. So let's start by, first of all, I'm going to jump into the screen share and I will give you, so you can see me gone and you'll be able to see my drive. So here is my Google Drive and I'll be broadcasting that this afternoon. I'm just going to make sure that everyone can see it. So I have my Google Drive folder here and it's really important to understand there's a connection between two different parts here. If you go here in the More menu, and I'm on the newer Google Drive setup, there is a section here called Google Forms and Google Drawings, and then there's some extra ones that I've added as well. I'm not quite sure why they're not part of the main one anymore. I guess Docs, Sheets, and Slides are the most popular ones. Now, forms, I think, are probably some of the most powerful things that you can do. So I'm going to grab a new form. It's important to note that as soon as you create a form, basically they create a spreadsheet to store any feedback that anyone puts in here. So just jumping here. So we now have this untitled form. Make sure we're broadcasting the right thing and you can see what I'm doing. Feel free to put any questions into the chat windows as you're going along. So an untitled form, obviously important to give it. So here we go, sample Flubaroo. Okay, now obviously doesn't know how to spell Flubaroo. There's some important questions up here. Show progress at the bottom of page forms. That's a good idea if you've got multiple pages. Today we're going to create a pretty short one, so it probably doesn't matter. Allow only one response per question, requires login. So that means that the person answering a form must have a Google account of some description that allows them to log in. And that's important, I guess, if you only want one student to have one attempt. If you want them to have multiple attempts, then it probably doesn't matter so much. And the majority of the time, students only have one go because they only want to have one go anyway, so it probably doesn't matter. There's an interesting one here, shuffle question order. That could be a handy one if you are trying to write multiple choice quizzes where you want people to see the questions in different orders. Not so important. That is what I get when I'm in my personal Google account. I think it's important to be aware that generally most schools will have accounts which are set up within the school, and so there's a couple of extra questions. The specific questions that probably that are extra here is, do you want people from limit it to only people from your school? And if you only limit it to people from your school, then you also will need to tick the button which says require them to have an Flubaroo school log on, or in my case it's Flubaroo school, but it depends where you're working from. So these form setting ones up here are not quite often where I make a mistake. Quite often I'll deselect requiring a school log on, but if I do that, what I really need to remember is as I go in here that I need to put a field here for the people to write their name. So let's assume that I'm not going to require a log on today, but you could do that. Name obviously will not be multiple choice unless you want to go in and actually write down 20 or 30 names for all the students in your class. Text there. Notice there are some advanced settings. There's some data validation. You can say it must be a number. Though for what we do today, probably won't be required. So it sort of shows you what you're doing as you're going along in a reasonable preview. And I'm just going to add a second box, which will be a paragraph text, and answer today's question. Let's say I'm an English teacher, which is a bit of a stretch for me. I'm trained as a maths teacher. Let's say I'm an English question or HSA teacher. I might want to start my lesson with just a simple form each day, which asks them to answer a question. I don't even want to come into the form and say, this is what today's question is. I might just have it so I've got a very simple, here's the sample Flubaroo assessment. Well, it's not even Flubaroo in this, to be honest. You enter your name and write one paragraph that tells me something that you thought was important in last night's news. Or tell me what happened in yesterday's novel. There could be thousands of different options. And so once we've got that set up, I can change the theme, and I get a lot more controls now over here. So I can go, oh, I'd like a beach evening form, or classic ornamental, or the sample form like this, fireworks. But then I also get the option to come and customize it. So most of the settings nowadays, I can actually come in and say here, I want this different type of picture here. I would like a title. And when it comes to the title, I can actually change the size, the types of fonts that we're using. So if I want an impact, I'm not sure why I'd do that, but description of the form, I haven't got one at this point. And so I can change my fonts. Now, obviously, just like in any other Google Drive app, the number of fonts that are available is a little limited. It's more like a web selection of fonts, but there are options to add more fonts, but it's relatively limited. Help text, options, form background. So you could say, oh, actually, I would really like a light blue background. Oh, that's ugly. So let's put that back to maybe even a lighter version. Oh, that works. Yeah, the lighter blue is good. All right, so we've got that there and set up. So now that I've got that, I've designed my form. So edit questions is where I put my questions in. We'll do a few more complex questions a little bit later on. Then there's the ability to change the theme, which does show me what it's going to look like. Then there's two more buttons here, review responses and view live form. So notice that there are a couple of people out there watching it now. So what would be really handy to do is for some of you to actually get open a device and have a go at answering these questions. So answering today's question would be what we'd be doing with this. So the question is, how do your students get to this form? So if I go here and go view live form, it gives me this very long address. And that's certainly one of the options that I could use to actually do that there. Nowadays, there's actually a really nice one here called send form. I'm going to go send form here. And when I go to send form, notice how it has a short URL option. So it puts it into a GUI. And then what I can do from that is I'm going to be able to put that and share that a lot easier. So I'm going to come in here into the chat window. So if on the right-hand side, you should now have a link to that form. If you wanted to go and actually click on that link, you'd be able to put in a quick submission. So probably for today's question, I've used a very generic form. Why don't you tell me what you're most looking forward to in the holidays coming up? You may have noticed that I'm dressed a little bit more casually today, and that is because my workplace is already on holidays. I'm sorry to make you feel just a little bit jealous at this point in time. So if you go to that address there, or you can see it in the chat window, I'll leave that up for a second, and so somebody could come in there and fill it in for me. I am going to fill that in myself in a different window so that we've got some data in just a second. I encourage you to, if you've already had a go and filled it in, maybe somebody else in your group might want to have a go. I'd be happy for a lot of different ones to come in. But if you're not keen to contribute, that's okay, because I've put some stuff in there now. All right, so I have now, going back to this particular one. Okay, so I've gotten my short one here, and I have my response, and I'll encourage anybody else who wants to do it. So when we set this up for the first time, you'll notice that edit questions, change theme, view live form is an option to do it now. I think the send form and to see the short and addressed is very handy. And then as soon as we get a form created, automatically Google Drive creates an attached spreadsheet to it. And the attached spreadsheet is so that we can have got a place to store what people enter into our form. So if I go view responses now, you'll see that here is a spreadsheet where I have filled it in. Dave Collins, looking forward to 2 days in the city with my wife later on this week. My kids are still at school. Thank you very much, my in-laws. It is greatly appreciated that you will look after them while I am not. So this is what happens. We have a form that's been created that somebody has typed in their responses, and we get it collected there. Now, why is this really handy? Because as a teacher, I don't even need to collect pieces of paper in to see how students have gone with a very quick warm-up question, a real assessment as learning type of task here, so that we can work out very quickly where we're up to, and that way we can then work out where's the right place to go. Now, the challenge is sometimes we'd like to actually have a little bit more details and a more specific and multiple choice question. So I'm going to come back here to this one here, and I am going to set it up just a little bit differently. So I'm going to trash that answer today's question, and I am now going to go multiple choice question, and I'm going to go, what day of the week is it today? Multiple choice question. It could be Sunday, could be Monday, could be Tuesday, and could be Wednesday. Now, I'm obviously not limited to the number of responses here. I could put every single day of the week there. I could add an other. That would be certainly a possibility for me to do that there. Okay. All right, then I could go to the next question, which would be multiple choice question again, and I would like to know today which team is most likely to win the NRL this year. And we're going to go answer 1, the Dragons, answer 2, the Broncos. We're going to go the Cowboys, and we go the Storm. Current top 4. So there we go, we've got that one there. And just as a third question, let's come in here and we will go, so which is the best city to live in? And we're going to go here, Sydney, Melbourne, Hobart, and Brisbane. Now, obviously, most of these questions are reasonably subjective, and no one's going to agree what the total answer is. Obviously, this one here is actually quite reasonable to say this is the right answer, but here are the other two here. So I now have my sample Flubaroo form as I had before, and what I would like to do, it's still the same address as what it was. I now need to actually set it up so that I can tell Flubaroo how to mark these and send out some responses to the people how they're not. So here's the Flubaroo. Just so that I come across here, note that I still have some details left here from the last one. What I'm going to do here in the data, in the form, is I am going to, and I've just got to remember where exactly it is. I would like to clear out all responses. And I think that might actually be back in here. Responses, I'm going to go delete all responses and click OK. This is a way that I can reset it up each time. And I'm just going to delete that row as well, just to make sure it's there. We've got it set up there. Notice how the old question is still hanging around. It's probably better to start a fresh one each time. So I've got this here. I've got my view my live form. I'm going to come in here. Now, just so it's simple and clear to me, I'm going to write in the name of answer. I'm going to have a go at this form, and I'm going to tell the computer what the right answers are by me answering them. So obviously today is Monday. Dragons are the best rugby league team in the world. I didn't spell Melbourne right. That was pretty poor. And we're going to go with Sydney is the best city to live in. I'm going to press submit. Okay. So now that I've pressed submit and I come back here to Flubaroo, so we'll come back to my spreadsheet, it has these words here, answer, Monday, Dragon, Sydney. All right. So now that I've done that, I am going to close that one off. It's now on. So it says thanks there. I'm going to submit another response, and I'm going to go Dave, and I'm going to say that today is Monday, that the Cowboys and Hobart is the right place to be. And then I'm going to go Tom, say it's Tuesday, Dragons and Hobart, and one more Paul, Monday, Broncos and Sydney. So now that I've done that, you can see that the data's come in. I have 4 lines. Firstly, the answer one, and then what I said, what Tom said, and what Paul would have said. So now I'm going to come in here, and what I need to be able to do is I want to be able to manage my add-ons. I'm going to add a new option here. If I've used this before, it doesn't actually take, it's already installed. Note that Flubaroo has come up, probably because I've only just uninstalled it for today. So I'm just going to go add and free. It's going to come in here and it's going to ask permission to do a whole lot of things, view your email address, send emails you. Obviously, they're all essential to Flubaroo being able to do their job. So if you want to use it, you're going to have to read them carefully and then obviously accept them. So it's just done a little bit of work in the background, and then it says, here we go, Flubaroo. Once you've collected student submissions in the sheet, choose Grade Assignment from the Flubaroo menu to grant them. Want to try out Flubaroo with some sample submissions, copy-paste submissions into your sheet from here. So they can set it up so you can just play with it, and that's probably a good idea, but we've already created the ones here. So now under the add-ons menu, note in the sheet, it doesn't appear under a form. This isn't an add-on for a form. This is an add-on for a sheet, and the reason that's important is because we're trying to take the data that's come from the form and been placed in the sheet to be able to help us to do that. So now that I've done that, I can go to Flubaroo, and we can see there's a whole basic list of menu things that we can work through. But basically, start at the top and work your way down. So Flubaroo grading step 1. All right, so the first things, Flubaroo is pretty clever in having a look at these ones here. So we're going to go identifies the student name. That's great. Then we've got 1 point here, 1 point here, 1 point here, and then in the final one, I'm going to go skip grading on that. Continue. All right. And then here it says, wow, you've already got these 4 answers. Typically, one that was made by you will have the answer key. The answer key, so take sure to ensure that you select the right one. So you don't want to select the student who got all the questions most likely wrong. Ideally, that's why I mark answers. I put that there and go continue. All right. So Flubaroo has now started grading the class. Now, obviously, with a lot more data, it will take a little bit longer. It says a new worksheet showed grades has been created. This worksheet contained the grade for each submission and a summary of all the grades at the top. The very last row shows the percentage of students who got each question correct, with overall low scoring questions highlighted in orange. Individual students who scored below passing will appear in red. So let's have a look here. That part's not graded. Here are the questions that were. Here we set them up here. So what we have is a summary, possible points, average points, count of how many submissions, number of low scoring questions. So it brings out a whole lot of stats and data from there. Okay. It has a section here for email grades. So if you had been collecting their email address, you would actually be able to send that through. So if I go here to Flubaroo, you can note here how it's got options to email grades. It's going to ask which question has the email in. So we haven't put it in there. So let's just close that for now. jump back to here. Under answer today's questions, we'll put in some email addresses for those we'd like to send it to. So put in my personal email address, and I'm actually just going to copy and paste all four there with my personal email address, which is the one I use for my business. So if you've got any questions, feel free to use that. I'm not really stressed about people finding that out. So under here in Flubaroo assessment in grades, what I can now go here is I can go to Flubaroo email grades. It says which question, email address question. It's not letting me change it. Include answer key. Then you'll not be able to email the grades. It does say here if you didn't put them in there. So we'll just go continue. No grades because no valid email addresses were found. So what we'll do is we'll jump over here. Let's just grab these, paste them in here. Try that again. Under grades, add-on, Flubaroo, email grades. Normally I collect the grades obviously as we're going along. Still wants to do it like that. So let's just click here. Okay, so good. Let's try that there. See if we can trick it now. If not, obviously, next time you do it, collect their email addresses and it works a lot easier. Name, set through, include the answer key. Three grades were successfully emailed. So you can trick it if you didn't put it in there. So let's have a look at what that would look like. My phone going off because it's obviously receiving some mail. Okay, so here we go. Here is your grade for the sample Flubaroo assessment. And it's gone through here. It tells me I got 1 out of 3 right. It says, what day of the week is it? Your answer was Tuesday. The correct answer was Monday. And goes through here. It says that this one's not graded. And it certainly gives you a very nice quick summary of how it works. So if you had students sitting down to do a multiple choice quiz for you, you wanted to be able to set it up so that they could answer the questions pretty quickly and get the responses back from Flubaroo, it's quite an easy way to actually make sure that that data and that information is sent through. Make sure that when you do set it up that you're really clear the difference between a form. The form is where we collect the data, but the spreadsheet is where we see the responses. And we can just use this spreadsheet as a really quick way of just looking down here and going, all right, everyone tell me what 5 plus 5 is, put your name in, your answer for today's question, and then I can see 30 responses. I can see 3 kids that got it wrong just by looking at the table and go, oh, I need to make sure I go and give those 3 kids an extra hand as we start to do today's work. As you play with Flubaroo, you'll find that you can actually then use answers to exams pretty quickly, give back plenty of feedback. Now, I must admit, I'm not the biggest fan of using lots of multiple choice questions, but I can see the advantage to actually using this style of multiple choice question for that really quick assessment for learning, so that before I hit in today's task, I can clearly understand what it is that people do understand and don't understand. I get the chance for the feedback, but as a teacher, I also get some very clear results back here. Note here, there's also some more things in this, which allows you to view a report. Okay, we've got histograms. We can get that report emailed to me with number of people who got 1, number of people who got 2. It's quite a handy little setup there. There are some helpful tips. You've got the capacity to edit student feedback, and there are some check ones here. Just be a little careful. So look at this one when you do look at it. There is some quotas sometimes on people's accounts on how many times they're allowed to email someone. It says here, I have 96 left today. And so in this account, I'm not sure how it applies to my education account, but here in my personal account, I'm guessing I only get 100 emails a day that I can send at this level. If if you're doing this for a big class, say you had all year 7 doing it and there was 150 kids, sounds like you might have to just be careful on how much your limit is, or maybe you can only give feedback half one day, half the next. But personally, that would drive me crazy. So just look into it. I'm not 100% sure what's the easiest way to be to know that. I guess the only way is you're going to have to come in here and look at particular ones here and go and see in the add-ons how much work you got there. If I just go back here to responses. One of the things that you can also do with this, which if you haven't played with a lot before, I think this is a really good visual way of analysing any responses that we get back. This is also a very handy thing for surveys. If you go to the form and you go show summary of responses, so that was a little bit quick, I'll show that to you again. Form, show summary of responses. What you get is these types of graphs being made for you. Just be a little careful because it does include the answer key, so obviously that would skew your stats just a little bit. But if you're just using it for a survey, then this could be a very handy way of getting back data very quickly. I use this all the time at my work. Any type of training we run, we generally run some type of evaluation at the end of it, and this gives us very quickly the graphs that are the most appropriate graphs. In this case, multiple choice go with a pie chart, but there's a number of graphs that go with bar charts, and basically Google has set it up so it does make some really good decisions for us in regards to what's the best way to analyze it. Okay, so let's just do a quick summary of what we've done this afternoon. We started by creating a form. The forms are generally got the capacity for you just to drop it in and just to edit them as you go along. You've got a whole lot of different types of items, but obviously when we're using Flubaroo, multiple choice is the one that we're going to use the most. There are now a lot of different options for putting things onto your page. Images and videos, I haven't really talked about that this afternoon, but let's say you wanted to have students watch a video first off YouTube and then answer questions, then this is obviously a really easy way of placing it onto the screen. Text, paragraph, text, multiple choice, tick boxes, choose from a list, and then there's some advanced ones here as well. We use the scales a lot when we're doing evaluation of any type of training that we do. You can always click in here, you can change things, you can get one set up perfectly right, and then you can duplicate it, but you obviously got the capacity to edit and delete objects as you go along. So once you've designed your form, make sure up here that you collect generally on a form. I'm using Flubaroo, get them to be logging in with their school account, so it gets their email address, gets their name, collects all that information. I don't have access to that this afternoon. So once it's set up, obviously you can change your themes so it looks the way you want it to look. You've got the ability nowadays to customize and change themes. So I have one now built for my school with the school logo in here, and I basically just copy it from that form that I've created in the past so that I put the logo in the right place and the right size. All right, so once I've done that, I can view the live form. Shows me what it looks like. It has this really long address, but also nowadays there is a send form button. You don't even have to send the form. You can just press shortening and you get this shortened address here. But obviously you could just copy the long address and put that onto any type of learning management such as a Moodle or a Google Classroom. Say, hey, come and fill in my form. So once the students have completed that, and quite often I actually suggest you do it beforehand, you should actually put in the answers. If you have never used Flubaroo before, you will have to go to Get Addons, type in Flubaroo and add it in. And then once you've actually done that, there are a number of options. The first one basically is grade the assignment. Now it's regrade the assignment because we've already done it. And that will then generate, using the key, a table like this for you. That table shows you who got it right, who got it wrong, but also if it's got the email addresses in here, you do have the capacity then to go to the add-on, Flubaroo, go to email grades, and you can go to that even if people do the test late and then you need to add and send the grades through later on. If somebody does it later on, you can go through. Flubaroo does have the option that allows you to just email the people who are new or late to doing the test. There's a report here that you can use, a number of options which are very handy. I encourage you to play with it. I encourage you to get students to give you feedback on how it's working for them. but generally most of them really do like this concept of getting an email which tells them clearly what they got right, what they got wrong, giving them the option to be able to work on that in the future. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this afternoon's session. I think that Flubaroo is a really powerful tool, and so I do encourage you to continue to experiment with it, to play with it. If you've got any questions, I encourage you to send them through to me. My email address, as you saw before, dc150573@gmail.com, or just if you're part of the Single Point IT group for training with me on Google+, then you can always just post a question to the forum and I'll be happy to answer them. Hope you do have a good break when you get to having your break, and I look forward to doing some more training with you again in term 3. Feel free to email me topics or any concepts or ideas that you really would like me to cover in one of these classes. I hope it's been useful for you. I've certainly enjoyed presenting them to you. Thank you.